Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Content Show. This is episode 12. Who would have thought we'd make it? Today we're talking about consistency and animation. We just released a blog which was our trends in animation for 2020. Consider it's quite a good time at the moment to be talking about some of the cool things in animation. Morphing, grain, limited color palette and thin lines. Lots of really interesting styles out there at the moment. And I have a sense that animation sometimes gets stuck in a style that's popular and then the trends move on and a lot of brands don't grasp onto them as quickly as they should, because animation is always moving. It's a fascinating format to be working in, especially when you can't film outside. So there's this, or there's animation, basically. Or maybe I'll make an animated avatar of myself and deliver the content show as that. That could be fun. This week I'm filming on a different camera. Usually I film on this little thing, which is the DJI Pocket Osmo, but today I'm filming on the DJI Action Cam, which has a front-facing camera, so I can talk to myself and see how good I look at the same time. The other thing we're talking about this week is consistency. I find this really fascinating. Consistency is the boring part of content marketing, but publishing every week is really, really hard. That's what we found with the content show, 12 episodes. And when we started adding up our time creating the content show, it's about, I would say, about 3 days of full-time equivalent work. So I probably spend about 5 to 6 hours a week on the content show. We've got a producer who's probably spending a similar amount of time, probably 6 hours a week. We've got Arta and David, who probably put in an hour, maybe a bit more each. So add that up, and that's probably two full-time equivalent days. But to publish every week, so that's the most important thing. We've got to be doing it every single week to build audience. Like, we're so small at the moment. We've got about 320 subscribers to our channel. Please subscribe if you would like. But we're growing, and we're starting to see this organic growth. So last month we had 40 new subscribers. Previous month was about 20 new subscribers. So that little number keeps going up, and the organic, we put money behind a couple of episodes to see how it ran, but we're letting it go organic at the moment. So each episode takes a little while to get up to a few hundred views. But the critical thing is that we do it consistently. We publish consistently, because the YouTube algorithm is going to recommend our content more if we're out there every week and we're consistently publishing at the same time. The same goes for written content and the style, how you use it, like the colors, the fonts, but also the writing style. Really good organizations have a style book which basically says, we write this way, we spell using English spellings or American spellings. We attribute quotes a certain way, like he said or he says, and definitely no he exclaims. These things are really important, and what it's about is creating great habits and removing the decision making. So if every single time you're hiring a writer or somebody in the organization is thinking, how should I do this? You're basically taking those decisions away from that person, creating a style so that there's consistency to your audience. They come to expect it and they come to love it. But it also makes the work production process so much easier, standardizing that so they can do it so much quicker and so much better. That said, why is consistency so hard to get right? I think it's because, especially for brands and for marketers, I think it's because marketers have embedded the idea of the campaign in their heads. And so every year, every quarter, there's a new thing, and it's a big shiny new thing, and you get to grasp it and run with it and see how it goes, and then at the end of the quarter you start planning and you do the next one. So it's kind of like going on a holiday. I know that my wife, she can't get by without a holiday to plan. That's a really important thing to her sort of mental well-being. Everyone likes to look forward to a holiday. I think marketers are used to sort of this bright new campaign every month or every quarter or every year, and whereas content's not quite like that. And the consistent content is just day in, day out. It can get a little tiresome at times. Some weeks are better than others. It's kind of the opposite of the campaign. That's why it's hard for brands to get their heads around why that's important. If I come back to some of the content that Click to View does, for instance, we've been producing a newsletter for over 2 years now. We've iterated it a bit. We produce it every week. Again, that probably takes 1 day of a full-time equivalent person to research and write and produce this newsletter. We've got reasonable subscribers, not as many as I would like, but there's no great win from it. Like, I can't point to it and say, oh, we made $1 million just because we've been doing this newsletter. And, you know, it's got to be done every week. You know, Monday morning we're finding the new branded video picks to feature that week. Tuesday we're deciding, okay, what topics are we going to talk about? Wednesday is writing day, and then Thursday is publication day. I come from publishing, so I kind of love that process. But I think the brands still struggle to get their heads around this sort of day in, day out approach, which is consistency. It's so important. Coming up, we're going to talk a bit more about consistency and animation with our editorial content director, David Austin.
It's actually so bright and colorful and entertaining that I watched the entire thing through and I didn't know what it was about. I had to go back and watch it again and try and pay attention to what were they trying to tell me. And I still don't really know what the product does, but it looks like a lot of fun.
And scripted and animated content director Artur Akhmetsyanov, who's also who's also Singapore's most famous Russian comedian.
Maybe not everyone will actually have to hold hands and hug each other and kiss, because this is actually looking weird these days, right?
Artur and I also had a really long chat for a separate video about trends in animation.
Yeah, I like the Amazon one, and of course the Apple one. I don't know how Apple gives out briefs, but I suspect it looks like it's like, just make it beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And the Apple one, I think they won the award that we mentioned last time in the newsletter, the Brand Film Awards. I think in animation category, Apple received an award for this beautiful, very minimalistic, but very nicely done. Basically merging all the kind of product logos, the products themselves, but it's all just like very flawless.
Yeah, but it's also very true to Apple's brand. If you think back to the original iPod ad with just the white cables hanging down, really cool.
Yeah. Keep it minimal, keep it simple,
and keep it beautiful.
Exactly.
If you'd like to see the video, hit the card in the top of the screen, or look for the video URL below on our YouTube channel. Right, now over to David and Artur.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Content Show. I'm Simon Kearney, and I'm with Artur Akhmetsyanov, who's our scripted and animated content director at Click to View, also
Hello.
Singapore's most famous Russian comedian. And this week we've got a big special on animation, so we'll be talking to Artur a little bit about that. And our branded content picks of the week this week are all animation. So stand by for that. It's going to be lots of morphing and grain and thin lines and all sorts of other design buzzwords that I didn't know up until yesterday. And also David Austin, our editorial content director. Hi, David.
Hello, hi, and hi, Artur.
Before we get into animation, the other thing we talked about in our newsletter this week was consistency. And I think that putting this show together every week shows you how hard consistency is, because we're up to episode 12 now on a weekly program, and there's a lot more effort than I imagined. It's basically one full day out of my week to put this thing on.
Yes, well, at least you're going to get the benefits of all that consistency, Simon. Benefits like better user engagement, better SEO. The list goes on and on.
Well, I do hope so, and more subscribers. So if you're watching this, hit subscribe on the channel button below.
Yep.
And I'm very happy that we actually finally did it, because I think this content show and kind of Click to View TV idea was floating around for a few years, but I think we finally made it work, created a certain workflow, stick to it, and that's probably one of the ideas that actually we want to mention in terms of the consistency in your content creation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason why we didn't start it before was I was always afraid of starting something that we couldn't commit to, and we we fortunately we just got it to a stage where we know we can commit to it, and the workflow's split up enough amongst the team that it's not it's not all encompassing for any one person.
Yeah, and we have a lot. We actually have kind of a step-by-step guide on our blog this week about how organizations can maintain that kind of consistency. And there was a few points that came to me after we published it that I wanted to mention. I'm thinking of like maybe larger organizations that they might not be thinking about as far as getting things prepared, like having a style guide and having a sort of a plan for consistency. It may not seem like a big deal, but they should start thinking, well, what about when you have turnover? When you've got people leave the company, or if you change agencies. Those are the kind of things where if you don't have a plan, your consistency will completely be dropped and lost. And so you really should be thinking for those kind of changes.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm reading a book at the moment about habits, and how habits can be quite transformational. And one of the things, like if you look at using habits, say in a sporting team, for instance, it's about removing decisions. And so I think a style guide is very much like that. Like you don't have to think, oh, what font do I use, or how do I attribute a quote, for instance, because the decisions have all been made for you, and you just have to focus on getting that content out there.
I think the same principle applies to army, because I think military forces, they just remove any decisions. They just write everything for you. You just follow the orders, and that's the only way to get the large, diverse group of people just run towards one direction, trying to kill each other.
Well, that's that's also featured in the book. Is the military organizations are great at building fantastic habits. And that's what I'm trying to do organizationally at Click to View. I'm less successful than your average corporal.
I think you're higher ranked than that, Simon.
Yes, General Kearney.
Yeah,
Kearney.
Yeah.
Right, let's get into animation, because this is the fun stuff. Looking at some of these, some of the trends after that we talked about in our other interview and in the for the other blog. All this morphing that's going on, the grain, the thin lines. I love it. I love all this terminology, and it's good to know. So what do you think is the most compelling thing about animation at the moment in 2020?
I think one of the biggest benefits of the current situation is clearly it's a great alternative to all the live shoots that are being either fully cancelled or postponed indefinitely. And even if there are some shoots happening, probably there are a lot of safe measures in place. So you probably have a restricted crew. You might not have as many locations as you wanted, maybe not all the talents. Maybe not everyone will actually have to hold hands and hug each other and kiss, because this is actually looking weird these days, right? So there are a lot of kind of limitations in place, but the beauty of animation and motion graphics is that essentially you have the flexibility, and you can do whatever you want, whether it's realistic, whether it's something abstract and breaking the laws of physics. And you can create most of it completely remotely, because you just have the ideas, and then storyboard artists lay it out, illustrators add the colors, and then the animators keep it moving. So that's kind of I think the flexibility of it, the versatility of it, that's the greatest benefits in 2020.
Excellent. Now I'm gonna start. We look at our branded content examples, which is all animated this week. It's our animation special, episode 12 of the content show. I'm going to start from the last one, just off the back of your point, which is quite a simple video actually. It's from General Electric. They're a great content maker, and it starts off with a person talking, and they're filming themselves at home. So it's obviously during the lockdown. But then the animation takes over the scene, and we've seen other ones like this. It's a really nice style, first-person narrative. So it'd be great to do some do some more things like this. We actually did one a while back for I think for Group M as a recruitment video in a similar style.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to utilize still the live person interviews, be it just a personal story like the lady from General Electric, or maybe you can even do some sort of case study video, a merchant story, where you have person talking, but then instead of usual office B-rolls or their factory B-rolls or some stock footage, now you can actually use the illustrations. And that style is also, I think, because the story is very personal and emotional, I think the execution is also very nice because it's very hand-drawn feeling, kind of like the paper background. And I think it just reminded me a bit of the all the Dove commercials when they do like you recognize your own beauty. So this sort of thing.
Yeah, it was a nice one. I mean, whenever I say this, I always get in trouble with the designers, but it looked quite simple. Animation.
Yeah. Usually the simplest things are the ones that take a lot of efforts, right?
Absolutely. So then I guess moving on in terms of the grain trend, 2020 trend, there's this one from Vidico, which uses a lot of sort of hand-drawn storyboards. So maybe you could just run us through that one, Arto.
Yeah, that's a good example of basically a new solution real estate platform that allows you to simplify the process of purchases. And it's a series, so it's another example of how you can utilize the same content, but basically you have like a 15 seconds teaser, you have a full 1 minute detailed explainer, and then something in between for 30 seconds. And actually, besides having this grain, I thought that there were a lot of trends that we actually talked about. There was also line style, because it was all like all the characters were just lines. And then there was limited color palette, which in combination with this grain effect have this very stylish, nostalgic feeling. But also another trend that I see a lot is the exaggerated characters, because you have like big bodies, like maybe small heads or big heads. And that's something that we see a lot because I guess it just captures attention. And you follow those weird characters a bit more rather than just characters that look like normal human beings.
Yeah. It reminds, actually, that those characters remind me of this, like, I think it's Picasso's pre-Cubist period where he had these giants.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got Framer, which is a prototyping tool. This is just a really cool explainer video, I thought. And it's just, but really in the moment, like the colors, the vibrancy, the way it moves.
Yes. Again, we see a combination of a few trends. You see the kinetic typography, which is combined with a big, bold typography, because you see all the words are quite large. Plus, you have this vibrant colors, and it really, really hits you there. But at the same time, you have this sort of 3D feel. So instead of just, like screenshot where you have voiceover talking about the screencast, you basically have the same solution prototypes, but they're kind of all rotating. They're very fluid and very, very catchy music. So that's definitely a great way to present the solution. You talk about the values, but also you talk about all the features, you showcase them. And I think it's quite a short video. I think it's just 1 minute. It's really, really punchy and sets up the mood.
Although I watched it and I found it's actually so bright and colorful and entertaining that I watched the entire thing through and I didn't know what it was about. I had to go back and watch it again and try and pay attention to what were they trying to tell me. And I still don't really know what the product does, but it looks like a lot of fun.
It does.
Yeah.
They obviously succeeded beyond their wildest dreams.
Yeah, they got 2 views from David.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the strategy. The first time people just like, wow, what was there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't get it. What is it? Okay, then I watch it. Yeah.
Art exceeds explainer. And then we got the sort of the flowing morphing thing with the Pandora. Plus this show reel from a creative studio called Plus One. I love this stuff. It sort of reminds me of kind of like hippie animations from the 60s designed to expand your mind.
Pandora probably is the brand that can afford to be cool and kind of like hippie and added all these colors and again different characters drawn in a very interesting way. The same for the creative agency. Of course, they have to show their creativity, and what the better way than for these sort of manifesto that they do. But again, like maybe if you're some more serious brand, you probably have to tone down a bit and go on a safer bet, but still without sacrificing quality.
Very good. Well, these are all amazing, David. I hope we sound like we we talk the talk on the animation and design front.
Oh, you did. You fooled me. I completely bought it.
And on that note, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thanks.
Stay safe. And thank you for watching. This is episode 12 of The Content Show. Please subscribe on the button at the end frame, and give us a thumbs up if you can, because the algorithm loves it. Thanks for watching.